Americans agree Biden's economy is crumbling. Everywhere we turn, there are new numbers showing that things are not looking so good. We talked previously about Bloomberg reporting there is a 100% likelihood of recession starting early next year. Those models corroborated by other economists around the country. And Joe Biden doesn't seem to get it. Here is Joe at an ice cream store. Asked about the doomed economy, the president says, everything seems fine to me. I've got a snow cone. I've got a waffle cone here with some ice cream in it, and it's delicious. What's the problem?
Are you concerned about, just one more economic one, are you concerned about the strength of the dollar right now?
I'm not concerned about the strength of the dollar.
Not a big deal.
I'm concerned about the rest of the world. Does that make sense?
No.
Yes. Our economy is strong as hell. The internal. Inflation is worldwide. Worse off everywhere else than it is in the United States. So the problem is the lack of economic growth and sound policy in other countries, not so much ours. And that's how it's worldwide inflation.
Worldwide.
It's consequential.
Yeah, it's worldwide. Plus, I've got some ice cream, so things aren't that bad. As you can see, look at the size of these scoops. They're pretty good over there. So that's the president, not too worried, not too concerned. And he says, by the way, it's kind of a global thing. It's like when you go to school and you don't have your homework ready and you sort of feel better about it because nobody else has their homework ready and everybody just shows up and the teacher's like, what the heck? And you say, well, and everybody sort of, gets away with it because everybody's screwed up. Joe Biden says, well, the world economy is in the garbage, so why wouldn't ours be? It's kind of all of our big problems together. Well, we'll see how that works out for him at the polls, but not good for us Americans who would sort of presume that America would be a leader on these issues, not necessarily agree with and acquiesce to the status quo, demand that America maybe leads and does better than the rest of the world. Joe Biden just says, well, it's kind of just a problem everywhere. So what can we really do about it? That's the president. Now, other people think he's doing a great job. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House currently until she gets thrown out on her rear end, says Joe Biden's doing a great job. Just fabulous. Just really can't even think about how amazing it is.
But in some cases, there's no substitute for experience. And I think that what we have been through with the legislation under the leadership of President Biden, who has done a spectacular job. He's had a better 2 years than most presidents that you can name, certainly in the recent generations.
Who's she talking about? In recent generations. She didn't want to use the name Trump, but the economy was doing a little bit better under him than currently. She's having a tough time. And I really do think she's auditioning for something. Did you see how enthusiastic she was? He's doing an amazing job. It's spectacular.
But in some cases, there's no substitute for experience. And I think that what we have been through with the legislation under the leadership of President Biden, who has done a spectacular job. He's had a better 2 years than most presidents that you can name, certainly in the recent generations.
Massive inflation, extremely difficult economic projections, including a likely recession early next year. But everything is perfectly amazing. Thank you to Nancy Pelosi, who is as deluded as the rest of everybody else over there in Washington. Karine Jean Pierre also catching some grief from Peter Doocey. If Joe Biden's been working really hard on the economy, and he's a smart guy and he works really hard, he's got a lot of energy, very vibrant man, where are the results? Because it seems like we are going into a recession. Bloomberg said that. Many others are saying that. So what's all that work for if things still look so bad?
So he said he's been working on the economy every day for 19 months. Now Bloomberg economists are forecasting a 100% chance of a recession. So
Yikes.
How is it that we can be barreling towards a recession and the economy is, as the president says, strong as hell?
So here's the thing about the economy, and I've said this many times. You've heard this from Secretary Yellen. You've heard this from Brian Deese, who runs our Economic Council, is that what we are seeing right now is the job market is strong. The labor force is strong. And that is not what we see usually before a recession. And so and a lot of that is because of the work that this president has done. We are seeing an economy that is resilient. We are seeing an economy that is going into a transition with more stable growth, more steady growth.
Transition.
And that is because of the work that this president has done. That is because of the economic policy that he has put forward. And let me remind you, the economic policy that he's put forward is about building the economy from the bottom to the top and the middle out. And that is so important because it means that we leave no one behind. It means that there's equity in everything that he puts forward. And so again, you're going to hear from the president about gas prices. That's again trying to make sure that we continue to keep prices low for the American people.
It's about equity, okay? They're going to rebuild the economy. The old one, people had a little bit too much prosperity. They were living a little bit too large. So we're going to start from the bottom up, and it's going to be equitable. And everybody's going to be suffering equally. We're all going to be as miserable as everybody else. So just get used to it. And the president's going to talk about that soon enough anyways. Karine Jean Pierre acknowledging that the economy's not so hot, but that the president has been working very hard on these things. And it probably would have been a lot worse had he not gotten in there and started throwing a wrench into everything. Whereas many other people take a look at what the president has done and they say he might very well be the cause of the current environment. All of the spending, all of the policy changes, not drilling domestically, not solving big issues like stuff that's happening at the border, making current problems worse and bumbling internationally everywhere we turn. Maybe he's the reason everything's so bad. She says, no. Things would be a lot worse, and things are good right now because of his actions. But they also don't want to take responsibility for anything. They've been blaming Putin. They've been blaming Russia. They've been blaming everybody else except themselves. The Biden administration continues to struggle with gas prices. They got a nice backhand from OPEC Plus when they said, we're cutting production. If you keep releasing oil from your strategic reserves, guess what? We're just going to cut production. How do you like that? And it's going to hurt.
And also on foreign policy, President Zelensky thanks the Saudis for giving $400 million in humanitarian aid. Do you welcome this? And considering your grievances against OPEC Plus, that whatever they did was indirectly helping the Russians.
So look, the decisions that OPEC Plus made just last week was, we believe, sided with the Russians and was against the interests of the American people and the families around the world. We believe that decision is going to hurt and harm lower income economies, and it was a misguided and it was a mistake and a short-sighted decision. And so, look, we've talked about what the president's going to do next. He's going to reevaluate his relationship with Saudi Arabia. This is something that he has talked about since the beginning of this administration. He wants to do it in a bipartisan way, which is the way it has been done for the last 8 decades. We talk about our relationship with Saudi Arabia, so he is going to do this in a methodical way, in a strategic way, and he is going to certainly get input from members of both parties. But it doesn't take away. I know what you just laid out, the assistant, but it doesn't take away what OPEC Plus did. That decision was a mistake. And so, again, we're going to reevaluate that relationship, and we'll have more to share.
Reevaluate that relationship. Sounds like they might be breaking up. OPEC, we don't like what you did. We were expecting you to really give us a handout. I mean, we have an election coming up. We need to win. We can't have gas prices going up even higher. You seem like you're going to be inching that direction with your production cuts to try to make sure we get buried when November hits. And now Joe Biden is going to reevaluate his relationship with Saudi Arabia. You think they care? You think they're losing any sleep over that? They don't care at all. They just gave him a backhand. They don't care. What are they going to say? Oh gosh, sorry, Mr. President, you're right. Yeah, we're gonna start producing a bunch more oil. They know he's incompetent. They know that the United States is extended all over the place. And they are going to milk it for all it's worth because we've got weak, feckless leadership in charge. Karine says now they're siding with the Russians. So I guess they're with the Russians too. Everybody's with the Russians. Doesn't matter what you do or say. If you're against the administration, Putin, Russia, insurrection, they're running out of scapegoats. It's not working out so well for them. That's Karine Jean Pierre blaming the Russians and now threatening the relationship with the Saudis. Biden's really going to do something about this. Peter Doocey hits a home run. He takes it right to Karine and says, hey, Karine, we got two pretty big important issues coming up in this election. Most Americans are ultimately highly concerned about inflation and economic catastrophe. You, the Democratic Party, seems like the only thing you can talk about is abortion. You've been beating that drum endlessly since the Dobbs decision came out. So which is it, Karine? Is it abortion or is it inflation? You better pick a side because the elections are right around the corner.
What is President Biden's top domestic priority now? Is it inflation or is it abortion?
The president's going to continue to talk about issues that matter to the American people.
She didn't answer.
And
Smart.
abortion is one of them. Majority of the American people disagree with the decision that the Supreme Court made, the Dobbs decision. That is a majority of the people disagreed with that. When it comes to the economy, the president has made it very, very clear. When it comes to inflation, it is his number one economic priority, and he is doing everything that he can to make sure that we lower prices.
But it's not working so well. And the president seems like he's very interested in talking about abortion. So which is it? Now, Karine did the smart thing, and you see it took her a second. Did you notice that at the beginning? Right when Peter Doocey finishes the question, Karine is like, I better think about this one. She sort of has a gut instinct. Like she wants to respond, but she can't quite do it. So she says, both.
The president's going to continue.
Oh, there it is. Here, let's listen. Wait, I want to get
now. Is it inflation or is it abortion?
The president's going to continue to talk about issues that matter to the American people. And
neither, right? So very good job. She doesn't often get it right from behind the podium there in the press briefing room, but she did that one right. Doocey gave her the old either or scenario and she said neither. Hysterical. Because they had to really make a big decision on this one. Is it abortion or is it inflation? Because not everybody is getting abortions, but everybody is suffering from inflation. Anybody who uses the dollar or any other currency, all feeling the effects of it. But not everybody is using those dollars to go get abortions. So the White House is really now having to pick a side, and we'll see where they end up. That was Karine Jean Pierre. That's the White House. That is Americans agreeing that the Biden economy is crumbling everywhere we turn. Bloomberg now saying 100% recession. Many other economic models confirming that, corroborating that from elsewhere. So we'll see how they fare in the polls when the elections hit. But we'll continue to follow. Thank you for joining us as we do so.